Pakistan is under siege. Baloch rebels bleed Kalat while Islamabad shouts at Delhi. Hello, you are watching the Global Eye with me, Mosmi. In a bold and calculated strike, militants of the banned Baloch Liberation Army (BLA) ambushed a convoy of Pakistani security forces in the mountainous district of Kalat, Balochistan. The attackers detonated improvised explosive devices (IEDs) before opening heavy automatic fire, leaving 9 soldiers dead and several wounded. The convoy, moving through a vulnerable stretch of mountainous terrain, was taken by surprise. Officials admit the ambush was precisely executed, underscoring the BLA's growing sophistication and intelligence reach inside Pakistan's most restive province. Balochistan, Pakistan's bleeding nerve. For decades, Balochistan has been the thorn in Pakistan's side, a province rich in gas, gold and minerals, yet poor in peace, justice and representation. The BLA and other separatist outfits have intensified their campaign in recent years, targeting security convoys, Chinese engineers, pipelines and CPEC installations. Every new ambush is not just a militant setback, it's a symbolic slap to Islamabad's repeated claims that Balochistan is stable and secure. The truth lies buried in the desert dust, where the state's writ barely extends beyond checkpoints. Pakistan's multi-directional crisis surrounded by flames. Pakistan today finds itself hemmed in by crises from all sides, both internal and external. From the west, cross-border attacks from Afghanistan have sharply increased since the Taliban takeover. Pakistan's once celebrated strategic depth has become the strategic disaster. The Taliban regime that Islamabad once nurtured now turns a blind eye to Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan TTP militants using Afghan soil to hit Pakistani targets. From within, the Baloch insurgency has reignited, fiercer and more ideologically driven than before. These are not isolated fighters anymore. They are organized, trained and increasingly emboldened, shrinking deep into security installations once considered untouchable. And from the north, sectarian flare-ups in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the tribal belt continue to simmer, showing that Pakistan's internal divisions are not merely ethnic but structural. The result, a nation battling insurgents in the west, separatists in the south and extremists in the north, while its economy teeters and politics implode. And what is Islamabad's irony? Threatening India while trembling at home in the midst of this domestic turmoil. Pakistan's leaders, as if an autopilot, still find a time to issue loud threats toward India, vowing unimaginable responses to imaginary provocations. But the irony couldn't be sharper. While Islamabad's ministers breathe fire toward New Delhi, their own soldiers are being ambushed by rebels in Kalat, their borders breached by Afghan infiltrators and their cities rattled by extremist attacks. Perhaps before liberating Kashmir, they might want to liberate Kalat, Turbat and Gwadar from the chaos brewing within. A nation that cannot protect its convoys in Balochistan should think twice before flexing muscles across borders. The BLA's bullets are a more immediate reality than the Indian border they love to threaten from a podium. And what is the bigger picture? A nation on edge. Pakistan's internal collapse isn't merely a matter of law and order, it's a symptom of deeper political decay. The establishment, long accustomed to using external enemies to unify the public, now finds that narrative crumbling. When soldiers die at home, when attacks erupt from every direction, and when economic desperation grips the streets, nationalistic noise can no longer drown reality. The Kalat ambush is more than a terrorist attack. It is a mirror held up to Pakistan's contradictions, a country that shouts sovereignty while struggling to hold its own soil. Now we must ask, how long can Pakistan continue projecting hostility toward India while ignoring the insurgencies tearing it apart from within? Has the obsession with foreign enemies distracted Islamabad from the implosion happening inside its own borders? Can a state that has repeatedly silenced dissent ever hope to win back the trust of the Baloch people through force? Is the Taliban's Afghanistan proving to be Pakistan's most dangerous neighbor, a tragic reward for decades of short-sighted policy? How will the army, long seen as Pakistan's guardian, maintain its image when its convoys are being blown up by its own citizens? The empire of illusion is Pakistan. Pakistan's leadership today stands at a crossroads. One path demands introspection and reform, the other continues the illusion of power through noise and blame. But as Baloch militants strike at will and Afghan fighters breach its western gates, the illusion is cracking fast. The message from Kalat is clear. Before Pakistan dreams of shaping the region, it must first survive its own storms. For more updates and insights, keep watching The Global Eye.